Right, I think we're just about ready to go. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm sure we'll probably have a few more people join us halfway through, but not to bother. As you'll all know, today's webinar is being presented by Itslearning alongside Wiltshire Council's Family and Community Learning team. So before I go ahead and introduce our speakers for today and myself, I'm just going to quickly go over a few housekeeping. Right, yes, on to housekeeping. So obviously the most commonly asked questions for any webinars is the recording going to be available? Are the slides going to be available? Yes, the answer to both of those is that they are. In fact, I've started this recording far too early already, but our marketing team are very cleverly going to edit that for you, and we'll send that over as soon as it's available along with the slides. With regards to any questions that people may have, as I can see that Toby Mackenzie's already found, of course we've got the questions section available on the GoToWebinar control panel. So if it's all right with you, what I will ask is that people put their questions onto there. We do have a section at the end to answer these questions. Obviously the timings of that are going to depend upon how quickly we get through the content. And if we do have time, I will try to see if we can answer those questions throughout. But yeah, there will be space at the end also. Okay, so moving on to who is presenting today. So on the left-hand side, you can see the two presenters from Wiltshire Council. There's Rowena Prentice, who is our Family Learning Manager. Rowena's been involved in adult skills provision, in managing adult skills provision for the past 10 years, and has been at the forefront of their project here. And then part of Rowena's team, you have Laura Trowbridge, who's going to be offering us a demo of her platform later on today, giving us an insight into their new way of working. There's myself, Jordan Capel. I'm the sales and account manager that's acted as Wiltshire's first port of call, really. And then Danny, who's not able to join us today, but I thought he was worth a mention on this webinar since he's played such a pivotal role in Rowena and Laura's experience, and they will probably mention him throughout in that he's been their pedagogical consultant. So essentially he's been in charge of implementation and training and been able to help them to get the most out of their platform and use it in the best way for them. So moving on to the webinar itself, you can see that we do have a rough agenda, a plan that we're hoping to stick to, in which I will give first of all a brief introduction into Itslearning to provide some context into the platform in which Wiltshire will be referring to today. I'll then hand you over to Rowena, who's going to be discussing their journey so far from the offset to throughout the implementation stage and to, I suppose, go live. And then Laura is going to, as I've mentioned, give a quick demonstration to their new way of working, followed by the Q&A. So if we get started with my brief introduction. So Itslearning's story begins back in 1998, in which a group of students at Bergen University were asking themselves why they weren't using digital tools very much in their course. It just so happens that they were studying computer engineering at the time, so they were able to do something about it. And so as part of their master's project, they built their learning management system, which turned out to be Itslearning. And in fact, Bergen University became our first customer. So 22 years on, you can see that there's been quite a lot of change since then, in that we have now 7 million active users, making us Europe's most widely used learning platform, which is of course something that we're very proud of. But it's the figure to the left that I think personally I'm most proud of, in that we have 85%, an average of 85% user adoption after the first year. And the reason I think it's important to mention this is that it's all well and good having an online learning platform, but it's not a lot of good if people aren't buying into it and using it. And obviously I could go through each and every one of those figures, but perhaps we don't have much time. But I will mention that we were awarded the EdTech Award for Best Learning Management System in 2019, which is again something that we're really, really happy about. So this slide just gives you a quick insight into some of the nature of some of our customers. You can see on the left-hand side we have customers that cover your, I suppose, your more typical forms of education, ranging from your primary, secondary schools to further education, higher education, and even an example of a training provider in JTL at the very bottom there. But of course, what we're referring to today is adult and community learning and family learning in particular. And here you can see a number of customers that have actually joined us throughout, I suppose, post-COVID-19 life. And of course, Wiltshire Council is one of them today, who we're lucky enough to have present for us. Now, I could go over a long list of benefits that I've noticed and seen firsthand with these ACE providers, but I'll narrow it down to what I believe to be the main benefit, and that is the simplification of online learning. So as a consequence of COVID-19, all of these ACE providers were having to find a way to move what were primarily face-to-face courses to an online environment, and obviously had to do that in a very, very short space of time. So of course it was all hands on deck, and the management alongside the tutors were having to quickly find the right video conferencing tools, online assignment tools, testing tools, ILPs, and more. And what they were finding was that some tutors preferred using Zoom, for instance. Others wanted to use Teams. Some had all of their resources on Microsoft, Office 365, for instance, and some preferred the Google productivity tools. Lots had many YouTube, Kahoot, Quizlet resources, and were asking their students to log into these various sites, and then some had none at all. And the end result of all of this was often confusion, additional workload, and admin for the staff. But arguably more importantly, it was turning out to be quite a complicated process for students to follow, and on top of that, a near impossible task for administrators to monitor and report upon any activities or outcomes. So on the right hand side here, you can see a number of the tools that we've referred to a moment ago, and these are the most commonly used tools that these ACE providers were using to, I suppose, facilitate not just the face-to-face, but we're trying to use to facilitate their online environment. So that's your Google productivity tools, your Office 365, Zoom, Teams, Scorm, for instance. And as a consequence of our partnerships and integrations, we integrate with every single one of these and are able to use these familiar productivity tools and create them in the planning stage, use them to engage and teach the students in the class, and mark and reflect upon all of this from one central location in Itslearning. So of course the values of that is that students are no longer as confused as they have one place to access and handle all of their resources. Tutors get to use the tools that they're most familiar with and enjoy using, so we're not prescribing a way of working, so we can get that buy-in. And since all work is created, completed and marked within the one platform, administrators can have full visibility over what is being taught, when it's being taught, and what effect it's having upon teaching and learning. So that's kind of, I think I've done well to stick to my time frame, but yeah, I won't go into much more detail. So I think now's a good time for me to pass over to Rowena to hear about their experience to date.
Thanks so much, Jordan, and good afternoon, everybody. So, as Jordan said, my name is Rowena Prentice, and I'm the manager of the Family and Community Learning team at Wiltshire Council. The brief for me today was really just to give you a quick whistle-stop tour of our journey from having no kind of VLE to where we're at today. I will just add that Jordan's operating the slides on my behalf, so please forgive us if we get slightly out of sync. But I think I'm ready for you to move on now, Jordan, please.
Okay.
So just to give you a brief overview of what we did prior to the pandemic, we deliver mostly non-accredited courses, doing a couple of functional skills, maths, English and IT only, but in very limited numbers. So mostly non-accredited courses which we deliver face-to-face to small cohorts of adult learners around the entire county of Wiltshire. So our delivery venues varied. We don't have any classroom space of our own, but typically we would use spaces inside schools, children's centres and a variety of community venues, with our tutor team travelling across the whole county and actually spending a significant amount of time in doing that, in their travelling. Wiltshire is a very large county, if you know it. And then on top of all of that, we provided a free creche service to parents and carers of preschool age children. So often we would need 2 rooms in a venue. I'll just add, at the end of March, once the pandemic hit and we went into lockdown, the initial response for me and my service is that we were redeployed into completely other functions, because in the immediate instance, we were pretty much inoperable. So we spent a couple of months redeployed, but the latter couple of weeks of that, we were planning on returning into our substantive roles. And if you could just flick to the next slide, please, Jordan. However, what we found ourselves faced with on returning to the substantive roles were that our learners weren't wishing to engage face-to-face due to risk of contracting coronavirus, but also a large majority of our learners had their children off school and therefore wouldn't have had childcare and wouldn't have been able to attend any face-to-face training that we put in. Our class sizes would have need to have been reduced due to ensuring that we maintained appropriate social distancing measures, and indeed some of the venues that we used just weren't large enough to continue using them to enable that. We also found a general apathy towards learning due to lockdown, the impending impact on households around that, and the continuing confusion over government rules on group gatherings, also influencing people's decisions on whether they should come to learn with us face to face. Schools and children's centres were closed. Community venues were not then. All are now open, but some community venues still are not open to us going in, as are a lot of schools. They just don't want people that are flitting from school to school, understandably. And of course, we're all aware of the strict risk assessment procedures for anything that's delivered face to face. So thank you. At that point, we recognised that we needed an online solution, and we needed it quickly. So not really knowing where to start, we did some research on Google, just literally banging in various combinations of VLE, online platform, FE, ACL, and Itslearning came up as one of those. There were others that we investigated. I won't name those, but of the options that we looked at, we absolutely needed to ensure that our solution allowed learners to come with independent IT access, as opposed to requiring us to set an email up for them. We just weren't able to do that. We also wanted something engaging and interactive. It absolutely had to be compatible with Microsoft Teams, which actually we had just started using as an authority at exactly the same time. And finally, we needed something that was accessible to our learners on handheld devices. The majority of our learners are at a social disadvantage, and therefore at best they would have a smartphone, which is how they will be attending any learning that they do with us. Thanks, Jordan. If you can move on to the next one. So prior to purchasing, this was what it looked like for us. So we made our original inquiry via the Contact Us link on Itslearning's website. One of the tutors in my team made that connection and immediately received a call from Jordan. Together they arranged a viewing of the platform. So I didn't actually attend that. All the tutors in my service attended that, and Jordan provided them with a really quick whistle-stop tour of what the platform looked like. Following that meeting, as a team, we discussed what that had looked like. We collated questions that we had additional to those that had been asked during that whistle-stop tour. There were a lot. We had a lot of questions which we compiled into an email and sent to Jordan, who responded to us that same day, giving us the reassurance that everything we weren't sure about was achievable within the platform. So at that point, we made our decision to move forward and arranged a further meeting to discuss terms of business, what the contract would look like, and to, of course, get the all-important quote. Thank you very much, Jordan. So I think everybody potentially that's on this webinar is in an authority, but even if you aren't, you will know that actually working through the process of procurement can be lengthy, laborious, and we just didn't have the time to follow that process as we did follow the process, but we needed to make it crystal clear that things needed to move very quickly for us. If we were waiting 3 or 4 months, our service virtually would have become completely non-viable in that time. So I started with the information governance team, who identified that I just needed to complete an asset change request form, which I did. The procurement team were actually surprisingly helpful and identified that because the cost of buying into the platform over 4 years came in at below the threshold for our internal 3-quote requirement, just this one quote was sufficient. So that was a huge win really for me. And I just then needed to complete what they call the RUDE form, which is a record of officer decision form, with approval from senior management level. So our director completed the RUDE and sent that back to me, and I was just able to say that she was happy to approve us going forward. Information security, again, was surprisingly non-tricky. There was a data protection impact assessment form that I needed to complete. I had the help of our ICT team and our information governance team, so they collectively helped me to get that form completed accurately and efficiently. And actually ICT was a breeze because the platform's web-based. I was required to do an IT security evaluation, but there was no other IT requirement at all in terms of fixing any software or making any changes to our machines. Our legal team have to review the contract, so I've written contract there, but they have to review the contract. They did. They spotted a couple of things. They were fixed immediately, and therefore they were then happy to approve the contract, which went back to procurement to sign off and return. So if I was to peg a time frame on that, I would say that it was around 6 weeks. I don't know if you would agree with that, Jordan?
Yeah, I'd say that's about right.
Which, as I said at the start, certainly for our authority, that is pretty much record time. So we were super pleased and were then able to move ahead with the implementation and the training. Thank you very much. So apologies, the slide's a little bit disjointed. The left-hand table is the beginning and then the right hand is the end. So Jordan and I together worked through an implementation plan which Jordan put together, and this is what he forwarded to me. So this I won't read it all through, but it very clearly outlines dates, times, people responsible, people attending, and what was covered in each of these interventions to get us from just signing the contract to ready to deliver. So that took place through June. You can see we started on the 2nd and finished on the 29th. During that time, we were completely enabled to start delivery, which we did on the 1st of July. In actual fact, was our first delivery day. In conjunction with all of that, my tutor team were also revising all of our courses to make them fit for virtual delivery. So we very much opted, as Laura will show you when we move on to her in a minute, to actually use the interactive functions within the platform. We haven't just pinned Word documents into Itslearning and share those. So for example, a workbook isn't a Word document with questions. It's an interactive document within the platform. So hopefully you'll be able to see some of that with Laura in just a moment. Thanks, Jordan. So in terms of the support that we get, so any issues that arise are always very quickly responded to. So Jordan has remained our account manager. That relationship is maintained and we meet regularly. Sometimes it's once a month, but sometimes it's once a week. It really depends on where we're at and what we need. I think we've spoken 2 or 3 times in the last 7 days at this point in time. We can also email questions directly to Trainer. I've put Trainer, he was the pedagogical consultant in actual fact, and that's Danny Nuttall, who Jordan introduced by picture at the start of the webinar. Once the training was over, we don't go to Danny directly, as he would obviously be inundated with questions, but he will still step in to help us with particular issues. So now we're at the point where we generally raise our issues. We raise a ticket via email to the support team, and they are generally pretty responsive. We don't have any outstanding issues at the moment, and a couple of them were just raised this morning. So within a couple of hours, they're always solved and fixed. We can also get help and support online via Itslearning website. There are a number of options to get support and FAQs on there. And I think I've already mentioned that it's always a very quick response and that we don't have any outstanding issues. So for us, the early outcomes, we are still obviously only 2-3 months in, really, 3 and a bit maybe, and benefits. So we have set up orientation sessions that we run twice weekly with learners to support anybody who's digitally challenged. So that's a real advantage in as much as it gives us an opportunity to help learners navigate the platform, but it also enables them to become more digitally proficient on top of that. So for us, that's been a real benefit. The options for attendance are flexible. So if somebody's not able to attend a given session on a given week, they can, often our tutors will just arrange a one-to-one catch-up with them the following day or later that same day. Whereas in face-to-face, that just couldn't happen. If they didn't come to the session, they wouldn't have that opportunity to catch up. They would just have to come next week when they can and be on the next session. So from that point of view, our attendance has actually increased. So I haven't measured that this week, but our attendance was sitting around 85% when I measured last week. And for us, that's good, given the nature of the learners that we're working with. I think we ended the last year in around 73% attendance. So we're really pleased to have seen that improvement based on the flexibility. tutors have utilised the new technology to provide a range of different resources and have adapted what we used to have to be used virtually. So we've got some really great resources within the platform now that work really well for us and our learners. Huge benefit is that we are saving lots of money because nobody's travelling anywhere, we're not hiring any rooms, and we're not paying for a creche. So that for us is a significant amount of money that actually by far outweighs the cost of the platform. And then I've just got a couple of quotes on here, one from a learner. Firstly, who's identified that she found it was really great to be able to actually do her learning virtually with a tutor rather than having to learn by herself, reading information and digesting it that way, and that she appreciated being able to discuss issues and ideas. Found that really beneficial. And then in addition, I have a comment from our external improvement advisor. So she works with us to monitor the quality of our provision. She's joined a couple of observations already this year, and following those observations, her comment was that Itslearning is providing a suitable platform for courses, and the range of induction, pre-assessment and online resources is impressive. And the next slide, please, Jordan. So finally, from me, because I've probably gone on for far longer than I was meant to, so what's next for us is that we plan to continue to grow our range of resources. So every day we become more confident in using the technology and are able to develop what we're delivering, which is exciting. We are hoping to adapt our accredited courses for remote delivery, so we haven't yet done that. We have only been doing non-accredited courses to date. And then finally, we need to better learn how to use the reporting function. I spent some time with Jordan and Danny this morning looking at that so that we're able to extract learner attendance data and learner feedback data directly from the platform, which will be a huge benefit to us. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. I'll pass you back to Jordan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rowena. Yeah, that's great. I think now, according to the plan, we're just going to change the screen sharing so that we can pass that over to Laura. Bear with me, I'll just sort that out. Yeah, there you go, Laura. I believe you're now the presenter.
I'm hoping that can you see my screen?
Yeah, yes, I can see it.
Yep, fantastic. Okay, so hi everybody. My name's Laura Trowbridge and I am a family and community learning tutor at Wiltshire Council. And I've been asked to cover a few things in my little demo here. I've been asked to talk to you about how I use the platform and some of the elements within that, the planner and content creation, and then maybe just chatting a little bit about what's working well for us. So this is my home page, and I'm going to move that there. I'm hoping you can see all the range of courses we've got on here so far. So this is work by myself and some of my colleagues' work. You can't see all the courses that we have on there, but there's a lot here for a tutor, for their view. For a learner, they would only see the courses they are enrolled on. So if that's only one, they would just have one block here to look into and to open. And so I'm going to just take you in and show you one of these. So this is one of my template courses. And just to start with, you start off with a overview page. This one is showing work that I've assigned at the moment, so that will come up first. And then any online classes will happen here. So it's very quick and easy to add them. You would just add an event, put the times and dates in that you're choosing, and then We use Teams, so I would just use my Teams plugin there to just start to add my Teams meeting. It's just going to log me through my Teams account, and then I would just create a meeting link like that. And you can also use Google Classroom if that is Google for Education, can't you? If that's one of the other options, isn't it, Jordan? But we use Teams, or is it Zoom? One of the other things. But yeah, we use Zoom, so we use Teams. So that one is ready there, and then you would just save it, and then it appears here for both the tutor to access. So you just click into it, and it would take you straight in. But for any learners that were assigned to this course, it would appear on their view of the course, and it would appear in their calendar as well. I personally also have it on my mobile, so it appears in my personal calendar as well, so I can see what teaching I've got coming up, so I can see it all in my calendar, which is really useful. So I'm just going to show you how we set up plans. So we use Itslearning to organise the planning for the course. The course I've got that I'm showing you here is a 5-week non-accredited programme, and so I've organised that into some pre-course activities, so things that I would need the learners to do before the course starts, and then it's organised, as you can see, into different weeks of activity. And then when you go into those individual plans, so for me as a tutor, I've got space to add my own notes, or to notes for my colleagues if I'm planning something that they will then use the template and deliver. There's a description here that learners will see. There's options to add times and dates that work needs to be completed by. You can add learning objectives, and these can be either ones that you set yourself, or I believe you can connect into a library of learning objectives as well with different qualifications. And then there's a section here for adding resources and activities. The nice thing about a plan, setting it up with a plan, is that the learners then are taken through those resources in the order that you set them up with the plan. So they can go through things rather than maybe dotting around or missing something. They will go through it in the right order. And so this is just a pre-course activity, so I only have an initial assessment set up there, and that's set up with the test format. Just see if it will let me review it there. But you can see there's a little review here. So I've just added questions. These ones are a multiple choice one, and then they would just click their way through the questions there. Just pop my way back to here. But then with a week's work, I have a lot more that they would work their way through. And Itslearning will take them through those things one at a time as they work their way through. And as you can see here, I've set up a discussion forum. I have some tasks that the learners will complete. I have a quiz. I've also got things like, so the PowerPoint file that I'll use is saved there as well. We use the plans because it organises the resources for the learners. They access them at the right time when they're needed. You can make sure that they're not maybe skipping ahead and missing some vital information. It also means that if you set dates for when the plans will be activated, that they appear on the overview page for the learner. So I'm just going to swap views a second. So you can always test your work at any point to see how it looks for the learners, for the students. So this is how they would view it on a laptop or a desktop. And also some of the handheld tablets, and it appears like this with a nice, I love this, the nice easy blue start button. So they would see my welcome message there, and they just click on that start button, and it would just take take them through things. So it's all that information that was sat within the plan. That was the session description. It tells them what their objective is, and then it takes them to the initial assessment. They can see a picture of me as their tutor, and they can continue into the test, and it will start to ask them those questions. And then for me as a tutor, I can then just skip out of that. I then have the option through the reporting systems that we have. So we have 360-degree reports. Now I don't have any learners on here because I can't show you any of my students for data protection reasons, but I'd be able to go to progress and see who has done what, how far they've got through the work, which things are completed. I can go to individual resources and I could choose a quiz, for example, or an assignment, and I could see who has made what answers. I can mark their work if it's not set to automatically mark, and I can give them feedback on assignments as well. Where are we next? Sorry, I'm just reading down my notes. So where are we? An assignment allows the learner to actually edit and change a document should that be something that you need them to do. So where are we? Just going to see. So this one, for example, is giving them a task to do, and each learner would be able to open this document. They don't need to have Microsoft Office or Word or any kind of reader on their device that they're using. It opens within the platform for them to edit and to work on that. And then they submit it, and then I have the opportunity to give them written feedback on that work. How we're choosing to use the platform, we also quite heavily use the messaging system, and we give a lot of learner feedback through the messaging system too. So for example, on things that they've done in class, in the online class with us, or tasks or things that they've completed, and maybe send photos of evidence, that kind of thing. So learners will use that to send me photos of the work they've done, and I'll use that same system to reply with feedback for them. Just going to show a quick overview within the plans of the different types of resources that you can add and activities. So I'm just going to go to show all there. So you can, there's quite a lot of options. You can choose from simply just uploading a file for learners to access. You can create a page which has interactive content, so you can add in polls, you can add links, you can add videos, and it makes quite a nice, it looks really enticing to the learner to interact with the information that way. You can add notes, which is mainly text and photo. And here's a lot of what we use. So I use a lot of the tests to make quizzes. We use the survey as part of our course diary and individual learning plan, where we get the learners to reflect on what they've learned over that week. So we do that with surveys. Tasks are great for activities where you don't want a result handed in to you necessarily. So I might set learners a video to watch and then ask them to respond about that in a discussion forum. And then assignments are the option where learners can edit and work on a document within the platform. So those are the main ones that I use at the moment. In terms of what is working well for me, I really like that I can track how learners are engaging with the online resources. It makes it very easy for me to pick up if anybody's having any difficulties either accessing anything within the platform, or you know, whether they're having an issue with their device or their IT knowledge. So we can quite quickly put support into place with that. integrates with Teams for us. It means that they set up events really quickly. They appear in learners' calendars. I don't need to individually email people about you know, a Teams link. It does it all through the platform for me. Learners have said that they like how they can complete their work independently, so they can return back to things, or they can do it at a time that suits them. The majority of our learners learn to navigate around the Itslearning platform really quite quickly. So when assignments are set, they can be marked easily on the system. And feedback sent directly to the learner. Learners can also see their scores in tests and things like that. And as I said, we also use the messaging system to provide feedback. And I also think that the app works well, so learners are reminded of the classes and they can communicate quickly with their tutor, so it sort of breaks down some of those barriers that that working online could create. I know it's a lot to get your head around, and a lot to a big change to suddenly making lots of ways of working, but we've been quite, you know, we've been excited about the changes that we can make and how we can bring learning to our disadvantaged learners at this time. And as Jordan said, I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have about how we use the platform.
Thank you, Laura. Really appreciate that.
Okay.
And of course, I'm sure everyone can understand that the extent to which Laura can demonstrate her platform is somewhat limited due to the fact that we obviously can't share any student data. However, Maritza, if you're able to help me share my screen once more, you can see here I've got some, unfortunately, some rather blurry screenshots that I've put together here that give you a bit of an idea as to some of the things that we've missed. So Laura mentioned the ability to report upon activity, progress and grades, and they do that through what's referred to as 360 reports. So you can see on the left-hand side there, you've got a view of all of the students that are attached to that course with a kind of an overview into their activity over the last 7 days. However, if you were to click on the individual, so in this case Edith Erickson, you can see a more sophisticated, in-depth view of what they've been up to and when they've completed work, for instance. And the same goes, similar sort of concept for progress as well. So again, a view of the entire class, click on an individual and you can see what resource, activity, task they have completed or not completed, when they visited, how long they spent on it, what you know, grade or score they achieved, and finally grades as well. So you can there are other views of the grade book, for instance, but this is again included within 360 reporting, giving insight into their grades and across each element of the course. And on the right hand side you can see, for instance, grade trend or grade in relation to the rest of the class. Okay, so a bit of a whistle-stop tour into reporting, but should people wish to have a more sophisticated view of reporting, I'd be more than happy to help people after this session and arrange for a demo of one of our demo sites. And lastly, that we do have kind of advanced reporting as well, in which you can have more intricate reports. We won't go over these now, but just to give you a bit of an introduction to those. So finally, well, I suppose now's a good time for me to thank Rowena and Laura for their time there. Really appreciate you, you know, prepping that and delivering kind of your experience so far for everyone to hear. Hope that's been helpful for everyone. In terms of kind of next steps, a bit of a call to action really. I'm more than happy to kind of help people by, you know, booking like a remote learning health checks, what we refer to it as, in which I'd happily, you know, have a call with whoever's interested, talk about what you're using currently and see how we may be able to help with that moving forward. You can see my contact details there, my email address and contact number. So yeah, do feel free to get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. And finally, moving on to Q&A. So I just have a little look. I've not looked at the questions for a little while, but I don't think anyone's put anything in the QA or chat. So if anyone's got anything they wish to ask now, yeah, we'll be here for the next 4 to 5 minutes if people have anything they want answered right away. Oh, here we go. We've got a question here from Tammy Firth. If learners attend ad hoc rather than the lesson time, do they still have an attendance mark? Laura, do you want to answer that one?
Oh gosh, I mean it's an interesting one. So you can personalize the attendance element of the platform so that there are quite a few options for whether it's morning or afternoon sessions. I think there's about 6 different options per day that you can set for possible attendance that they could have, and then you can adjust that so different days can have different periods when they could be attending. So I imagine that you could use it flexibly like that, and there's a range of different attendance options that you can score people with as well. So I believe that you could use it to reflect some ad hoc attendance. It's not like you hit 11 o'clock and then it won't let you add attendance anymore. It's sort of open until you close that week, so you could adjust it were they sort of attending a drop-in or something like that. I would think. But certainly, I've been able to do things where maybe someone hasn't attended the session at the set time, but I've run a catch-up. Then I can add that into my comments and things that I'm putting on there, because you can add a comment next to their attendance too.
Brilliant. Another question we've got here is, what are the best tools used for student engagement for online learning? So again, over to yourself, Rowena. Laura, what from your experience, what have been the best tools used?
For student engagement? Oh, that's an interesting one. I think in terms of students, I think they really like things that are visual. They really like where you can add videos, so you can make video content quite quickly and easily, or you can link to if you've got video content or other people's video content on YouTube, you can embed that really quite nicely. So I think people do like to see and hear and have things as multi-sensory as possible. And also I think being able to personalize and to link it really directly to the learners is what it's certainly my learners are really appealing to them. Where I can adapt things. You can add in new resources really quickly. There's the opportunity on the website to add in an announcement. So if we've just spoken about something in an online class, I'll pop an announcement straight on there afterwards saying here are the links and things that we talked about. And again, engagement with that kind of thing is really good. So those things I think work really well. And the quizzes, there's lots of different options within the quizzes for lots of different types of questions. So I think that it's not too threatening when you're just sort of clicking through. It's not the same as maybe sitting a test in a test environment, and I think learners are engaging well with information presented that way too.
Perfect. And lastly, I think it's lastly, Chris Harris, you've asked how the system supports RARPA. So as you've seen from the slides, we do kind of report upon progress and achievement, but yeah, I mean, that's probably something I'm going to have to put a little bit of thought into and investigate along with Danny. So as part of kind of follow up to this, obviously we're sending over the recording and the slides. I'll include there some more details on how we'll support RARPA. So
Yeah, I mean, we run our own sort of system alongside it, where we just have like a spreadsheet to monitor achievement of their learners set their personal learning outcome for every session that they do with us, and we just have our own kind of system which just draws that together, just sort of where tutors can mark that learners have achieved or partly achieved, and where evidence is saved. So where our IQA can find that evidence on Itslearning, it will just have a quick little link saying the evidence is here, so that kind of completes part of that process for us. I hope that helps, Chris.
Cool. I think, unless I've overlooked one, I think that's all of the questions that we've got here. Can you see anything, Laura, Weena, that I might have missed?
No, I can't.
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, right. So we'll, if everyone's happy there, we'll call that a day. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that proved to be helpful. As you can see from the slide here, you've got my contact details. So if you have any further questions that might come up later on today, or if you'd like to book in one of these remote learning health checks, we'll get a date in the diary. Okay, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Bye.